Sure looks as though Patrice Bergeron will be back in the lineup for Game 5 as the Boston Bruins attempt to finish out the Florida Panthers here in Round 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's talk about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is April 25th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every single day, free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about Patrice Bergeron returning to practice here on Tuesday in preparation for Wednesday's Game 5 against the Panthers. We're also going to do a quick postseason power rankings as well, with everybody having played 4 games in the first round to date. First, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at LockedNHLBruins, and you can find me, my dad jokes, hockey tweets at Ian C. McLaren. So the Bruins had a day off Monday following Sunday's Game 4 win in Florida with an extra day between games. They were able to take some rest, and Don Sweeney addressed the media on Monday afternoon at Warrior Ice Arena, giving an update on Patrice Bergeron. He will join the team for practice today. Then they're going to gauge his progress and go from there. It's day to day. They're going to see how he is when he integrates with other guys on the ice besides just himself. He has been skating on his own here for several days. Sweeney added the team is hopeful Bergeron has made adequate progress over the last several days that will allow him to suit up for Game 5 tomorrow night at TD Garden. Sweeney said, quote, "It really goes on the medical advice as to what is best for him. The medical staff ruled they didn't think it would be in his best interest to be available for either of the games in Florida, and they took the necessary time. But he's been working hard. We'll see how that progress translates today and go from there," end quote. Bergeron, despite his absence, remained incredibly involved from afar while the team was in Sunrise. Don Sweeney said anybody that's been around Patrice knows that he does everything with a purpose. Trying to stay involved and connected was a big part of it. It was incredibly difficult, I'm sure, for him to be sitting on the sidelines for the first 4 games of the series. He's been working hard to try to get the opportunity, and he is probably very appreciative of his teammates for getting them to this point, 1 win away from advancing to the second round. And hopefully he'll be a part of a much longer playoff run here in subsequent rounds. Now, David Krejci, not as positive an update on him. He's unlikely to skate today. He's undergoing further testing with an upper body injury affecting him. They'll have a better idea once that testing is done. And hopefully at some point they can get both of their top 2 centers here in the lineup. Now, the thing is, the Bruins play Game 5 on Wednesday. Unlike the NBA, the NHL waits until every series is done. There are a couple that are tied 2-2, could go to 7 games. So we're probably looking at maybe Monday or Tuesday where the Bruins would, knock on wood, begin the second round. So they still have a few days. I saw some people saying, maybe take extra precaution with Bergeron, keep him out of the lineup, even if he's healthy. That's not going to happen. If he's cleared to play, he will be in the lineup for Game 5, and it's good for him to get as much game time as possible. I mean, you want Bergeron in there as much as possible for the Boston Bruins. Now, Sweeney credited some guys for stepping up in the absence of Bergeron and Krejci. Brad Marchand has done a really good job at taking leadership roles, 0 penalty minutes, setting an example for the Bruins so far. Nick Foligno, Dmitry Orlov, who has won a Stanley Cup. They have a lot of guys trying to do all the things on and off the ice that it takes each day to stay on top of their games. Jim Montgomery made some great adjustments between Game 2 and 3, getting the guys to manage the puck a lot better. Catastrophic turnovers in Game 2. He credited Taylor Hall as well for playing really well, taking advantage of some offensive opportunities, finishing, feeling good about his game, and Tyler Bertuzzi as well. Playmaking ability and being able to slide up and down the lineup. And Pavel Zacha has stepped up as well. Don Sweeney said it's been huge for them. You lose what for most of the season was your top 2 centers. And Pavel Zacha, you see what he's capable of doing in the middle of the ice. It's translated into the playoffs, and I'm sure it makes them feel good about the fact that he is locked up for the next several seasons. So that's the off-ice updates for the Boston Bruins. Patrice Bergeron set to practice here on Tuesday. Hopefully all is well, that he's able to play on Wednesday. Bruins can finish off the Florida Panthers and get set for what's looking like a second-round series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're going to talk about who's doing well, who's playing poorly in the Stanley Cup playoffs here in a moment as we take a look at the playoff power rankings. But first, a quick word about today's first sponsor, which is Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team as well? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. It's the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. You don't have to spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching assessments and virtual interviews. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. That's Indeed.com/lockedon. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone, but if you need to hire, you need Indeed. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every single day. Every day, you can get a Game 5 preview on tomorrow's podcast. Locked On Boston Bruins, your favorite team, every single day. All right, Tuesdays on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast, we usually do the Atlantic Eastern Conference Power Rankings. We're going to do that for the entire postseason as a whole. Right now, there are 4 teams that are up 3-1 in their respective series. So we're giving the edge to them this week, of course. You have the Vegas Golden Knights up 3-1 on the Winnipeg Jets. Carolina Hurricanes up 3-1 on the New York Islanders. The Toronto Maple Leafs are up 3-1 on the Tampa Bay Lightning after erasing a 4-1 deficit last night in the third period, going on to win in overtime. The Maple Leafs really flipping the script there. And then you have our Boston Bruins, of course, who are up 3-1 on the Florida Panthers. So who's getting the edge here? Well, the Carolina Hurricanes have a chance to close out the New York Islanders tonight. When it comes to regulation wins, the Bruins get the edge. They have won all three of their games against the Florida Panthers in regulation. They also have the best goal differential of all these teams who are up 3-1. They've scored 16 goals. They've only allowed 11. Whereas the Maple Leafs have scored 19, but they've allowed 16. The Vegas Golden Knights have scored 15. They've allowed 13, so +2 there. Hurricanes, 12 goals for, 11 against. So they only have a +1 goal differential. Boston with the best goal differential among teams, up 3-1. And they're also the only team that has won all three of their games in regulation. So we're giving them the advantage here this week. The Bruins, this is what's interesting looking ahead to round 2 here. We know it'll be either Toronto, or Tampa Bay. Toronto, Tampa Bay rank 1 and 2 in goals for per game, which is interesting because they're, of course, playing each other. Toronto has scored 4.75 goals per game so far, but they're also giving up 4 goals per game, which bodes well for second-round opponent Boston, conversely scoring 4 goals per game, but they're allowing only 2.75 goals per game, which is tied for second fewest with Carolina. Only the Rangers have allowed fewer, 1.75 goals per game, and they're tied 2-2 in their series with the New Jersey Devils. So among the series that are at 3-1 right now, we're giving the edge to the Boston Bruins. They had that blip in game 2, but they have the best goal differential. They've won 3 games in regulation. The Vegas Golden Knights have won 2 in regulation, as have the Hurricanes. Maple Leafs having only won 1 game in regulation so far. That's encouraging if you're looking ahead to the second round, because you know that there's been a lot of luck on Toronto's side. Andrei Vasilevsky has not looked great. Eric Cernak was injured on the Michael Bunting play in game 1 that caused the suspension. Victor Hedman not playing 100% healthy. So looking ahead, again, don't want to jinx anything. There's still a lot of hockey to be played here in the first round, but the outlook is pretty positive for the Boston Bruins if you're looking at either Tampa or Toronto. Now, obviously, Toronto, you can't consider them through until they actually do it. And the same with the Bruins, of course. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, jinx anything. But of the 4 teams that are up 3-1, Boston is the only one that has won all 3 in regulation, and they have the best goal differential. So we're giving them top spot here in the postseason power rankings, followed by the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina, unfortunately, they're without Andrei Svechnikov. They've lost Teuvo Teravainen. That's a rough injury status for them. Vegas looking like the team to beat out in the Western Conference for sure. Coming up after the break, we're going to take a look at the series that are tied 2-2 and rank these teams as well in terms of the power rankings. But first, a quick word about today's other sponsor, which is the Gametime ticketing app. Now, I downloaded Gametime last week, looking at some concerts, baseball games to attend this season. Blown away by the presentation of the app and the prices as well. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. They have killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, so you can stop stressing over tickets and start getting hyped for the event. Gives you a view from those seats, and they also have some flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Download Gametime, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off on Gametime. Last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. All right, so there's a bunch of series that are tied 2-2 around the NHL at the moment. The Seattle Kraken, Colorado Avalanche, Minnesota Wild, Dallas Stars, Los Angeles Kings, Edmonton Oilers, and the Rangers and Devils. The team that has scored, well, first Dallas and Minnesota. Very, very tight series so far. 13 in terms of goals for and against. The Edmonton Oilers, wow, they pulled off an amazing comeback the other night against the Los Angeles Kings. They looked dead in the water, but have come back to tie that one as well. They are the top scoring team among the series, tied at 2-2. They have scored 3.5 goals per game. They're allowing 3.25 goals per game. So positive goal differential for them there. Who else has been scoring pretty well? Winnipeg Jets have scored. That one's not tied 2-2. The Dallas Stars, again, tied with the Minnesota Wild and even 13 goals apiece. Same with the Kraken and the Avalanche. 12 goals each in that one. Now, the weird one here, I'm giving the advantage to the New York Rangers here when it comes to the teams that are tied 2-2. They have scored 3 goals per game. They're allowing only 1.7 goals per game. The New Jersey Devils have won 2 games in the series, scoring only 7 total goals. That's insane. New Jersey Devils tied 2-2 in their series, and they've scored only 7 goals, 3 of which came last night in a 3-1 win over those Rangers. Akira Schmid has come in and played unbelievable for the Devils. He leads with a save percentage of .966. Jeremy Swayman has a perfect 100 save percentage, but he's only faced 1 shot. Schmid, 2 goals allowed on 59 shots for a .966 save percentage. That's better than Jack Campbell, who's at .964. Igor Shesterkin, .941, as is Philip Gustafsson. Imagine having a .941 save percentage and you're tied 2-2 in your series. That's the case with Igor Shesterkin and the New York Rangers. Linus Ullmark next at .926. So when it comes to the teams that are tied 2-2, definitely giving the edge to the New York Rangers. I think they should advance past the Devils based on the goaltending that they're getting, the scoring that they're getting, mostly the defense. Allowing only 7 goals in 4 games, you should be primed to advance to the next round. Wild, Stars, that one's a bit of a toss-up, as is the Oilers, Kings, Seattle, Colorado, both tied at 2 as well. I'm seeing that Cale Makar will have a hearing for interference against Seattle's Jared McCann. So if he's out, that gives the edge to Seattle for sure. But looking at the playoff tree, You got to give the advantage to the higher seed, home ice advantage. So Colorado, Dallas, Edmonton, and the Rangers, although they don't have home ice advantage. They beat New Jersey 2 games in New Jersey. Devils came back and won both games at Madison Square Garden. So that is just a very weird series, but I'm still giving the edge to the Rangers. So to recap, top 4 right now, giving it to Boston, Vegas, Toronto, Carolina. And then of the other series, I'm going to go with Colorado, Dallas, Edmonton, and the Rangers as the top 8 teams in the playoffs right now. And we will possibly soon be saying goodbye to the Islanders as early as tonight, I believe. The Tampa Bay Lightning, Florida Panthers could be out tomorrow night. And no, actually, Tampa, Toronto doesn't play. They don't play until Thursday. And Vegas Jets could play on Thursday as well. That one could be done. So the Bruins could be the second team to advance if Carolina wins tonight. Altogether, Boston Bruins playing fantastic. They rank second in goals per game, second in fewest goals allowed per game. Really starting to find their groove. Having played without Bergeron for the entire series, I'm feeling pretty good about their chances going forward, no matter who they play in the second round. In the third round, could get a bit dicey with the New York Rangers, assuming they make it. But, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. The good news is Bergeron will be practicing later this morning. We'll get some clarity on his status for Game 5, which we will preview here on tomorrow's podcast. Thank you so much again for listening to Locked On Boston Bruins today. Take care of yourselves, friends. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you again here tomorrow on Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.